I've always thought our marriage was built on a solid foundation of trust and love. I'm Jake, 32, and my wife, Amanda, 30, has been my partner for over 6 years. We met in college, and while our relationship had its ups and downs, I believed we were on the right path. But lately, things felt off. It started with the little things: Amanda's change in routine, her late nights at the gym, the way she would sometimes glance at her phone with a nervous smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It nagged at me, but I brushed it aside. After all, who doesn't have moments when they seem distant? Then came the day I discovered the changes she'd made to the car radio presets. Just a few weeks ago, I had tuned into our usual stations, the ones we shared memories with. But when I hopped into her car, I noticed something odd. One station was stuck on the Love Dedication show. You know, the type listeners call in to express their feelings, often dedicating songs to their significant others. But this particular day, the letters were a bit too personal, and the coincidences felt pointed. From J to A was the first dedication I heard, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. As I drove, my mind raced. J, my initials. Amanda's. It was all too much to ignore. I started paying attention to the songs being played, the messages, and they seemed to wrap around me like a noose. How could she dedicate a song to someone else while pretending everything was fine at home? It stung deeper than any betrayal I could have imagined. My gut screamed that something was wrong, and as the show went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface. In the days that followed, I became a detective in my own life. I noticed how Amanda would often leave her phone unattended, and one evening I found the courage to pick it up. I didn't want to snoop, but when I saw the notification light blinking, I felt an overwhelming urge to know. There it was, a message from a guy named Eric, asking if she had enjoyed their last meetup. I felt the world tilting under my feet, a tidal wave of anger and disbelief crashing down. I confronted her that night when she came home from work, the smell of perfume hanging in the air. "Who is Eric?" I asked, my voice a mixture of anger and calm, trying to maintain control. She froze, eyes wide, clearly unprepared for the accusation. "Oh, come on, Jake. You know how it is. It's just a work friend who wanted to hang out. You're being paranoid," she spat back, her bitchy tone cutting through me. I wanted her to see the hurt in my eyes, but she was too wrapped up in her lies to notice. I pushed further, revealing what I had found: the messages, the radio dedications, everything. Her face shifted, and I saw the facade slip slightly. "It's not what you think. You're overreacting." Amanda shot back, her voice rising in pitch, but there was a tremor of fear behind her words that made my heart race. I didn't want to believe her, but part of me wanted to hold on to any semblance of innocence she might claim. But as she continued her defensive tirade, I felt something inside me harden. It wasn't just betrayal, it was the realization that the woman I loved had built walls around me, fortified by her lies. I spiraled into a tempest of emotions: anger, sadness, horror, and disbelief. The perceived safety of my life was crumbling, and I struggled to keep it together as I listened to her excuses. The confrontation had left me reeling, unable to process everything in that moment. I felt as if I were watching the world through a foggy lens, each word she said echoing back at me in frustration. The trust we had built over the years was shattered, and I began to wonder what our future held. I needed time to think, to process this new reality. As I sat in the dark, replaying our conversations in my head, I knew I had to make a decision that would change everything. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. I had learned the hard way that love could be as destructive as it was beautiful. After that night, I was a whirlwind of emotions, spinning between shock and anger, disbelief, and betrayal. The days crawled by, each one heavier than the last. Amanda acted as if nothing had changed, maintaining her routines and charming demeanor. She'd even put on the sweet act, making dinner and asking about my day with that sickening smile that used to make my heart flutter. But all I could think about was Eric, the name that had become an unwelcome guest in our home. I started to notice more signs of her deceit. The late-night gym sessions transformed into excuses for working late. I would catch her texting late at night, her fingers flying across the screen with a nervous energy. The once comforting sounds of our shared life together now felt like a soundtrack to a betrayal unfolding before my very eyes. I felt like I was living in a reality TV show where every episode revealed a new layer of her lies. One afternoon, I decided to dig deeper. I had a hunch that there was more to uncover. I couldn't just sit idly by and allow myself to fall deeper into a pit of despair. I reached out to some friends, confiding in Ryan, my best buddy from college. He listened patiently as I recounted everything, and he offered to help me figure out what was really going on. I knew this wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to involve anyone, but I also knew I couldn't face this alone. Ryan and I hatched a plan. We decided to follow Amanda one night after her supposed gym session. I was filled with this knot of anxiety in my stomach, but I knew I needed to confirm my suspicions. The night was dark, and as we drove through the streets of our suburban neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I was terrified of what we might discover, but I had to know the truth. Finally, we pulled up outside the gym, and I watched as Amanda stepped out of her car, her workout gear hugging her body like a second skin. She looked stunning, but I was too lost in my thoughts to appreciate it. After a few minutes, I saw her pull her phone out, and from where I sat, I could see her texting. The light from the screen illuminated her face, and for a moment, I felt an overwhelming urge to storm out and confront her right there. But I held back, desperate for proof rather than just emotions. After some time, I noticed that she wasn't heading inside. Instead, she lingered around the parking lot. My heart raced as I watched her lean against her car, seemingly waiting for someone. I couldn't see their face, but my gut told me something was off. A few moments later, a car pulled up, and before I could gather my thoughts, I saw Eric step out. Everything came crashing down. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something, anything to release the pent-up anger within me. Instead, I found myself frozen in place. The reality of what was unfolding before me felt surreal. I watched as he approached her, and my heart sank when I saw them share a kiss. It was passionate, filled with a desire that I hadn't felt from Amanda in what felt like ages. A deep-seated rage bubbled up inside me, and as they embraced, I felt as if my entire world was burning to the ground. Ryan noticed my tension. "You okay, man?" he whispered, but I barely heard him. I was too engrossed in what I was witnessing. The couple pulled apart after what felt like an eternity, and I was suddenly flooded with images of their secret encounters, the lies she had spun so effortlessly. It was like a punch in the gut. I had been living a lie, and the woman I thought I knew had been deceiving me all along. The drive home was a blur. I barely registered the streets passing by, my mind replaying the scene over and over. I felt sick to my stomach, the betrayal cutting deeper than I thought possible. How could she do this to me? I thought we were happy, that we had built a life together. That night I barely slept. I tossed and turned, wrestling with my thoughts. I was furious, but I also felt an overwhelming sense of sadness washing over me. The dreams I had for our future felt like ashes in my mouth. By morning, I was exhausted but resolved. I knew I had to confront Amanda again, but this time it would be different. I wouldn't let her lie her way out of it. As I sat there in the dark, I started to piece together my plan. I would confront her directly, armed with the evidence of her infidelity. I would demand the truth, and I wouldn't accept any more of her excuses. I was done being the fool, and I was ready for whatever came next. I needed closure, and I was determined to get it. The confrontation felt inevitable, and I spent the entire next day rehearsing what I would say to Amanda. My heart raced with each moment, my mind racing with anger and disappointment. I had never anticipated being in this position, yet here I was, a man ready to face the truth, no matter how painful it would be. When Amanda came home that evening, I was waiting for her in the living room, the air thick with tension. She walked in, her usual smile plastered on her face, but I could see a flicker of confusion when she noticed my serious expression. "Hey, Jake, what's up?" she chirped, but I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. "Amanda, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but firm. She looked taken aback but quickly masked it with her usual bravado. "Okay. About what?" she asked, her tone laced with feigned innocence. About you and Eric, I replied, watching as her expression shifted from confusion to alarm. The color drained from her face and I could see the wheels turning in her head as she tried to come up with a plausible excuse. What do you mean? She stammered. Jake, you're being ridiculous. Eric is just a coworker. I couldn't hold back the anger any longer. Just a coworker who you've been meeting up with, right? I saw you kiss him at the parking lot outside the gym. The words burst from my lips like a dam breaking. The betrayal felt raw and fresh, each syllable a dagger piercing my heart. Amanda's eyes widened as her facade began to crack. You were spying on me, she accused, her voice rising with indignation. You can turn this around all you want, Amanda, but I have proof. I won't let you lie to me any longer, I countered, pulling out my phone and showing her the texts I had saved, the incriminating messages that had become my holy grail of truth. Her demeanor shifted again, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. The defiance began to fade into panic. Jake, I didn't mean for you to find out like this. It's not what you think, she pleaded, her voice shaking. Not what I think. A kiss isn't just a friendly gesture. You've been lying to me for months, I replied, my anger boiling over. You've been sneaking around behind my back while I trusted you completely. Please let me explain. It's complicated. She stammered, but her words felt empty to me. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool amidst the storm of emotions. Complicated? What could possibly justify this? I was feeling lonely, Jake. You've been so wrapped up in your career. I just wanted someone who understood me. She finally admitted, her voice breaking. Her words hung in the air like a bitter aftertaste. I couldn't comprehend how she could justify her actions as a response to my work schedule. So, cheating is your solution. You didn't think to talk to me about how you felt. I thought you'd judge me, or think I was being silly. I didn't want to burden you, Amanda. Shot back, her eyes darting away as if searching for an escape from the reality of her actions. Burden me? You want to talk about burdens? How about the burden of knowing you've been unfaithful? I shot back, my voice rising again. The reality of the moment was surreal. Here we were, two people who had once shared dreams and laughter, now standing on opposite sides of a chasm of betrayal. Amanda broke down, her tough exterior crumbling. I'm sorry, Jake, I messed up. Can't we work through this? She pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. In that moment I felt a flicker of compassion, but it was quickly overshadowed by the weight of her betrayal. You think I can just forget about this, erase the trust you've shattered? It doesn't work that way. Her sobs filled the room, but they felt like hollow echoes of the love we once had. I love you, Jake. I didn't want it to happen this way. She cried, but every word felt rehearsed, an attempt to salvage the pieces of her shattered image. As I looked at her, I realized the love I once felt was buried beneath layers of hurt and distrust. I need time to think, Amanda. I can't deal with this right now, I said, my voice softer but firm. I walked away from her, leaving her sobbing on the couch, and retreated to the solitude of our bedroom. I sank onto the bed, feeling the weight of what had just transpired. The emotional turmoil was overwhelming. I felt angry, betrayed, and heartbroken all at once. What had started as a life filled with love and dreams had now spiraled into a nightmare. I couldn't imagine how we would move forward from this, but I knew I had to make a decision. I would take the time to reflect on what I truly wanted. Did I want to salvage this marriage, or was it time to walk away? It felt like the hardest decision of my life, but I knew I had to face it head on. I spent that night lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with countless memories of our time together. I had loved Amanda fiercely, but could I ever trust her again? At that moment, all I wanted was clarity, a way to navigate through the darkness that had suddenly enveloped my life. The following days felt like a blur. I was trapped in a whirlwind of emotions, oscillating between anger, sadness, and a sense of betrayal that was suffocating. Amanda tried to reach out to me, but I wasn't ready to engage in any more conversations filled with excuses and half-hearted apologies. The time apart became a necessary sanctuary for my thoughts, a space where I could attempt to process everything that had happened. I found myself revisiting the memories we shared, the dreams we had built together. I would scroll through old photos on my phone, the smiles and laughter seeming so distant now. I remembered our wedding day vividly, the vows we exchanged, the promises we made. The weight of those memories felt heavy on my heart. How could someone who once pledged loyalty and love turn around and betray me so completely? After a week of silence, Amanda finally reached out again, requesting a sit-down conversation. I was reluctant but knew that we needed to talk if I was ever going to get closure. As I drove to the cafe where we agreed to meet, a knot of anxiety twisted in my stomach. Would she cry again? Would she try to manipulate me with more excuses? I had no idea what to expect, but I steeled myself for the worst. When I arrived, she was already there, seated at a table in the corner, nervously fidgeting with her napkin. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but the flicker of hope quickly faded when she noticed my expression. "Hey," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Let's just get to it, Amanda," I said, not wanting to dance around the topic any longer. "I don't want to play games, okay?" She took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "I've been thinking a lot about everything, about us. I know I messed up and I want to try to fix it. I really love you, Jake." I studied her face, searching for sincerity, but all I found were remnants of the woman I used to love. "Love isn't supposed to hurt like this, Amanda. You broke my trust. You broke us. I know, and I'm so sorry. I promise it won't happen again. She hesitated, searching for the right words. I was feeling lost and Eric was there. I didn't think it would go that far. I thought I could control it. Control it? I scoffed. You can't control who you fall in love with while you're married. That's not how it works. You don't get to play with my heart and then come back asking for forgiveness when it suits you. Her eyes filled with tears again, and for a moment I felt a flicker of emotional conflict, but I quickly pushed it aside. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice firm. "I want us to go to couples therapy. I want to work on this together. I want to show you that I can be the wife you deserve," she pleaded, desperation etched on her face. I considered her words, the idea of therapy swirling in my mind. Could I really take that step? Did I want to salvage our marriage, or was I just delaying the inevitable? What if I can't trust you again? What then? I pressed, seeking the truth that lay buried beneath her tears. "I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back, Jake. I swear," she insisted, her voice cracking. The idea of therapy wasn't a bad one. I had heard success stories, couples who had rebuilt their relationships stronger than before. But could we really go back to what we once had? Would I be able to look at her without seeing Eric's face? As I contemplated all of this, I realized something important. I needed to protect myself. I couldn't let her words sway me if they weren't backed by genuine change. "I can't make any promises, Amanda. You need to understand that this is going to take time if I even decide to try." She nodded, her face a mix of hope and despair. "I understand. Just please give me a chance. Let's do this together." It was a small step forward, but it felt like a monumental decision in the grand scheme of everything. We agreed to start therapy, and I left that cafe feeling a mix of hope and trepidation. It was the beginning of a long and arduous journey. But deep down, I wondered if it was worth it. Would we emerge from this stronger, or would it simply expose deeper wounds that couldn't be healed? In the following weeks, we started therapy. The sessions were emotionally draining but necessary. We examined our relationship's ups and downs, and I began to unravel the reasons behind Amanda's infidelity. It was hard to listen to her recount her feelings of loneliness, but I tried to remind myself that we were both responsible for the state of our marriage. It wasn't just her fault. I had become complacent in my own way, allowing my career to consume me. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself grappling with an array of emotions. Sometimes I felt a flicker of hope, but just as often, I found myself spiraling back into anger and hurt. We made progress in some areas, but my trust was a fragile thing, easily shattered with each reminder of her betrayal. One evening, after another session, I drove home feeling particularly conflicted. I had seen glimpses of the woman I fell in love with during our discussions, but doubt still lingered like a thick fog. Could I really forgive her? Or was I simply trying to convince myself that the love we had was still there, buried but not lost? As I pulled into our driveway, I felt my heart race again, the familiar tension creeping back in. I had to confront the truth. I was scared. Scared of whether we could truly rebuild what had been lost, scared of the possibility of a future without her, and most of all, scared of how deeply I still loved her despite everything. The therapy sessions continued, and for a while it felt like we were making slow but steady progress. We learned how to communicate more effectively and began to explore the underlying issues that had contributed to Amanda's infidelity. It was exhausting, both mentally and emotionally, but I was determined to see it through. Somewhere deep down, I hoped that maybe we could come out stronger on the other side. However, even amidst the progress, those moments of doubt clouded my mind. I'd catch myself replaying the memories of her with Eric, the secret kisses and whispered promises exchanged under the guise of friendship. I couldn't shake the feeling that despite our efforts, Amanda's betrayal had left an indelible mark on our relationship, one that might never fully heal. One evening, after a particularly intense session, I found myself alone in the living room, the quiet, settling in like an unwelcome guest. I couldn't help but think about how far we had come, but also how far we still had to go. The walls of the house felt heavier, filled with unspoken words that needed to be addressed. As I sat there, I resolved to confront Amanda again about everything we hadn't touched upon during therapy. It was time to bring some of the lingering doubts into the light. When she came home, I was ready. "Amanda, we need to talk about something important," I said, my tone serious. She looked at me, a hint of apprehension flickering across her face. "What is it? Is everything okay?" "I don't know if everything is okay. That's what we need to talk about. I still have so many unresolved feelings," I replied, my heart pounding. She nodded, her expression shifting to one of concern. "I understand. Just tell me what's on your mind. I want to know how you felt when you were with Eric." "What did he give you that I did?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with vulnerability. Amanda hesitated, visibly struggling to answer. "It's complicated, Jake. I was in a dark place. I felt neglected because you were so focused on work. Eric was there and I didn't think it was about feeling wanted, feeling desired. Desired, so it was about physical attraction." I pressed, needing to understand. "Not just that, it was emotional too." He listened to me. "He made me feel special," she admitted, her eyes cast down, guilt weighing heavily on her shoulders. I took a deep breath, absorbing her words. "And what about now? Do you still feel that way?" "No, I don't want that. I want you. I want us," she said passionately, looking me straight in the eyes. "I know I messed up, but I'm trying to change. I see what I had with you and I don't want to lose it." Her desperation tugged at my heart, and I fought the urge to fold and reassure her that everything would be okay. Instead, I had to hold my ground. "But that doesn't change what you did, Amanda. You broke my trust, and that's hard to rebuild. Just saying you want me isn't enough. I know. I am so sorry. I will do anything it takes to prove to you that I can be better. I can be the wife you deserve," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face again. I felt a wave of compassion wash over me as I watched her cry, but underneath it all lay the undercurrent of doubt. "Can you really change? Or are you saying this because you're scared of losing me?" "I'm saying this because I see what I have to lose. I see our life together, and it scares me to think I could lose you," she exclaimed, her voice rising with emotion. I paused, considering everything she had said. It was a raw and honest moment, but I still felt hesitant. "I have to be honest, Amanda. Even if we're trying to rebuild, I don't think I can forget what happened. I still see you with him in my mind. I don't know how to erase that." "I understand. I just need you to trust me again. I'll show you I'm committed. I'll fight for us," she exclaimed, reaching out to hold my hand. For a moment, I allowed her to take my hand, feeling the warmth of her touch, but the shadows of doubt loomed large in my mind. "I want to believe you, I really do," I said quietly, "but it's hard. It feels like our love is shattered and I don't know how to piece it back together." Amanda's gaze softened and I could see her desperation. "I'll work hard to rebuild our relationship. I promise I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means being completely transparent. I'll share everything with you. No more secrets," she vowed, her eyes pleading for understanding. I nodded, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within me. "If we're going to do this, then we have to be open with each other. I need to know everything. I need to feel secure again." "I can do that," she promised, and for the first time in a while, I felt a sense of renewed determination. It wouldn't be easy, and I knew there would be bumps along the way, but we had taken a step forward. As we sat there, holding hands, I realized that trust would be a long road to travel. We were both navigating uncharted territory, and while the way ahead might still be fraught with uncertainty, I could at least take comfort in knowing we were both willing to fight for our marriage. But the nagging question remained. Could love really survive the betrayal, or would it always serve as a haunting reminder of our past? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew we were at a critical juncture. With each passing day, I hoped we would find a way to move forward together, rediscovering the love that had once been the foundation of our lives. As time continued to pass, the journey through therapy revealed more layers of complexity in our relationship. Each session became a deep dive into our past, our dreams, disappointments, and the fragile fabric of our marriage. We unpacked the baggage we had both carried, and while it was painful, I felt a glimmer of hope emerging from the darkness. Slowly but surely, I began to see changes in Amanda. She was more present, more involved in our conversations, and genuinely committed to rebuilding what we had lost. I appreciated her efforts, but the scars of betrayal were still fresh in my mind. It was like walking through a minefield. Even as I tread carefully, I couldn't shake the fear of what could happen if I stepped on the wrong spot. One evening, after a particularly intense session, we returned home feeling emotionally drained but connected. We settled into the living room and I sensed a shift in the air. Amanda turned to me, her expression serious yet hopeful. "Jake, I know we've made progress, but I still feel like there's so much more to say," she began, nervously biting her lip. "I want to be transparent about everything. I know it's important for you to understand my side and I want to face it head on." A knot formed in my stomach at her words. "What do you mean?" "I've been trying to avoid discussing the details about Eric because I didn't want to hurt you more, but I realize that avoiding it doesn't help either of us. You deserve to know everything," she said, her voice steady. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what was to come. "Okay, I'm listening." During the time I was with him, it felt like I was caught in a whirlwind. I craved attention and validation that I was getting at home, and Eric was charming and attentive, but I felt awful about it the entire time. I was constantly battling guilt, she admitted, her voice trembling. I looked at her, trying to absorb her words. "So why didn't you just tell me you were feeling neglected? Why go to him? I thought you'd brush off my concerns. I thought you'd think I was being dramatic or needy. I didn't want to be a burden." It was easier to escape into a fantasy than to confront the reality of our fatting connection, she confessed, tears in her eyes. "Wow," I said softly, trying to process her honesty. "I wish you would have trusted me, Amanda. We could have faced it together." "I know, and I regret it every day. I was scared and made a terrible choice. I wish I could take it all back," she said, her voice breaking as the weight of her regret hung heavy in the air. In that moment, I felt a mixture of anger and compassion welling up in me. I understood her fears, but it didn't erase the pain. "Just know that this isn't something I can easily forget. Trust is built over time, and I still have a long way to go before I can fully trust you again. I understand, and I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to rebuild that trust," she promised, taking my hands in hers. "I will give you full access to my phone, my messages, everything. I know it might seem invasive, but I want you to be comfortable. I'll be an open book." "Okay," I agreed cautiously. The thought of monitoring her didn't sit well with me, but I knew she was trying to do what it took to earn back my trust. As the weeks turned into months, we continued our journey. We attended therapy regularly, and I found myself beginning to trust Amanda again, albeit slowly. I could see her efforts, and it was comforting to know that she was working on herself. We even started spending more quality time together, rekindling the joy we once had. However, the realization hit me that while I was willing to work through this together, there was also a part of me that was reevaluating what I wanted. I had to ask myself whether I could ever look at her without the shadow of Eric looming over us. The truth was, I was still working through my own feelings of anger and betrayal. One evening, as we sat on the couch sharing a bottle of wine, I turned to Amanda with a determined expression. "I want you to know that I'm trying, but I can't pretend this doesn't still hurt. I need you to understand that while I'm willing to rebuild our relationship, I won't be able to forget what happened. I don't expect you to forget, and I wouldn't blame you if you decided this isn't what you want anymore, she responded, her voice filled with sincerity. I just hope we can find a way to move forward together. I want that too, I replied, feeling a wave of emotion wash over me. But I need to be honest, it's going to take time. I need to know that this is really what you want, that you are committed to making this work. I am, Jake. I'm all in. I love you and I hate what I did. I want to make it right, she said, her words flowing from her heart. As we sat there, the flickering candlelight casting shadows around us, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. While the road ahead would be long and filled with challenges, I realized that if we both continued to put in the effort, we might just find a way to rebuild our love. In those moments of clarity, I understood that life is rarely straightforward. Our journey together wouldn't be easy, but it was one I was willing to undertake. I had learned the importance of communication, vulnerability, and rebuilding trust. It would take dedication from both of us, but maybe, just maybe, we could find a way to heal and emerge stronger on the other side. As I looked into Amanda's eyes, I saw a glimmer of the woman I fell in love with, and in that moment, I chose to believe that our love story wasn't over. It was simply entering a new chapter, one where we would fight for our love together.